What if the classroom was your living room and the lessons weren't just for your children, but for you too? In this heartfelt conversation, Samantha opens up about how homeschooling redefined not only her children's education, but her own growth as a mother. We explore the rhythm of learning together, the courage to unlearn old systems, and the power of presence in nurturing the human spirit. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soft Power Project. We have a beautiful guest today. Her name is Samantha, and she has a beautiful account. Follow her on Instagram. It's really all about healing, setting boundaries, and becoming whole. And I mean, I was trying to think of words to describe the page. I think it's raw, it's vulnerable, it's very introspective,
Well,
and
thank
it's
you.
definitely very healing. I loved it so much, and it makes me think, and but that it feels so warm at the same time. So I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you.
There are so many things we can talk about, but I think for today, I would really like to know about your journey as a mom who homeschool
Mhm.
your beautiful kids, because I think it's a huge decision to make because that changes completely your lifestyle, your schedule, everything. And as someone who is so afraid to do so, I would just wanted to know more about your journey.
Okay, so I guess probably start with why we even started in the first
Yeah.
place and like how we got there would probably be the best place to go. So we're from Michigan. And before my daughter turned 2, we moved to South Florida. So we were in Broward County, South Florida. And as the kids were getting older, we were considering preschool. I was a hairstylist in Michigan, so that wasn't really going to transfer, that great into Florida, but our goal was always for me to be a stay-at-home mom. So that was something that we had always worked towards.
Hmm.
So homeschooling, to be completely honest with you, wasn't even on the books. It wasn't an idea. It wasn't something that we had even thought about because our kids were so young.
Hmm.
And I remember so where we lived in Broward County, that's where they had the Parkland school shooting. And I don't know if that made the news all the way up, but that was a huge.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, there was so much mess ups. Like it was messed up by the police, the school, I mean, just everything. And that was the county that we lived in. So that was the high school. And I remember walking my kids through the neighborhoods and then coming up against a neighborhood school and it had bars on the
Hmm.
window. And we did
Hmm.
not live in a violent or scary area. We were 2 miles from the ocean. But I remember walking through and seeing the neighborhood school have bars on it. I just remember thinking like that's an elementary school. It really disturbed me because when you think about school and you think about children, you think about bright colors and joy, and school is supposed to be somewhere that's fun.
Yeah.
So education is extremely important to me, though I have no college degree. When I think in terms of education, I think that it helps make the person whole. And when I was looking at that school, I remember thinking, how do you feel whole when the building resembled a prison, with like, and I just, and it really changed things. And I remember going home and having a conversation with my husband because we had no idea that we were going to be moving from South Florida because that just, again, like everything was just where we were, what our plans were. And I just remember feeling I do not want to send my kids to the schools here. It was just in my gut.
Hmm. Hmm.
So he agreed, and I
Hmm.
started not necessarily looking into homeschooling again because I think deep down we knew that we weren't going to be staying in South Florida. So I started learning how to teach my kids for preschool, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And what can I do? And I was really drawn to Waldorf education.
Hmm.
I loved it so much. And the more I did it with the kids, the more positive feedback I was getting. So I was so drawn to it. And then when we were finally able to leave South Florida, we chose to move to Texas. We actually chose the city that we live in because there's a Waldorf school here. And I had my heart set, and I really, really wanted my kids to go to this Waldorf school. But in the meantime, my son, we enrolled him in kindergarten because this was also during the lockdown. The kids didn't really have like a lot of interaction, and we wanted to be able to introduce them, like back like into having some social functions with kids.
Yeah.
And I struggled so much while he was enrolled, and he was just enrolled in such a short period of time, but it kept me up at night. It was just like my spirit was screaming, and I didn't
Mhm.
understand. I couldn't figure out, but he came home with homework, and then
Mhm.
and this was kindergarten, like this was kindergarten with homework.
Wow.
And so I
Home.
emailed the teacher, just said, I am going to be the mom that you talk about in the teacher's lounge, but my kid's not doing this. Like, you've got him for 8 hours. He's he's 6 years old. Like, they're like, this is, I'm sorry, but this is just unacceptable in my book. It was just, there was all these issues coming back. Even like the physical education teacher had a conversation with me because he wouldn't do what she wanted the way that he wanted. And then I just remember thinking, like, this is kindergarten. I don't like why is this such a big deal? And it was
Right.
so difficult. And my son wasn't reading as quickly as they wanted him to read. And they had the state testing. And I did not know that, like, this is just how ignorant I felt. I felt like I had enrolled him into this school without knowing how drastically things had changed since I was a kid. And so I didn't know that they did state testing for kindergarten. I thought that that was something that happened much later. So for him to get a good test score, he had to be able to read the way that he wanted to. And
Mm.
I had opted out of the test. So they wanted to put him in special ed. And I'm just like, at this point, that's when I had about lost it. I went to my husband and I'm like, this is kindergarten. And I remember the teacher, she asked me, she's like, do you mind if I ask, like, what were your expectations like for kindergarten? And I said, play, like just play, 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 lots of art, lots of play, nap time, snack time. Just, I said, like, they're not supposed to have to, to be reading and writing at this.
Right.
Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. And I feel that that was heavily influenced by Waldorf, because Waldorf doesn't start teaching kids to read until first grade because it
Right.
follows the brain development of children. So I feel that that's where a lot of my influence was.
Mm.
And I just remember having a conversation with my husband, and I just I can't do this. Like, this is killing me inside. And I remember feeling so scared because I knew the Waldorf school was an option, and we even toured. And it was everything that I had ever imagined, and I loved it. But I had this nagging, like, it didn't feel complete. Like, the idea of sending him there, it's not like it soothed my spirit or calmed everything down. I didn't feel very confident about it, not because of the school. It's just like I could not rest with everything. And I finally just had this conversation with my husband, and I just said, like, I cannot do this. Like, this is killing me. I hate dropping him off. I hate not having him home with me. And he said, yes, but like, we're going to look into this. We're going to research. If we're going to homeschool, like, we're not going to just, do this. And that's pretty much when the journey started. And I dove right in, read as many books as I possibly could just to figure out, like, what am I getting into? What is this supposed to look like? And I have to be honest that here in the Houston area,
Mhm.
it's very supportive here.
Right.
There's a lot of groups. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to build a community. We even have like a homeschool store in Houston where they offer free coaching. They have curriculum that you can look at, and they just like the people that own it, that's just their passion. So they are more than happy to talk to you, help you, but museums support homeschooler. It's just like all the businesses out here are like set up to help homeschoolers. So I feel like that was a big factor into why I dove in so fast because there's just so much support, just so much support. But also, too, there were podcasts and there were all these books and there were all these people who had come before us
Mm,
that had done it, and so there was a map. There was this roadmap
yeah.
laid out, but what I didn't know was that I needed to write my own map,
Mm,
that all of this information and everything that everybody gave was a guide, and that was it. I was responsible for what it was gonna look like, how I was going to educate my own children. And I think that's my favorite thing about homeschool is this isn't a one size fits all. I fully cater their education because my son learns very, very differently than my daughter. And I cater the education to him, the way that he learns, how he learns best, and I'm able to cater it to her. So that way
mhm.
they're not really falling behind, but they're also learning at their own pace. And it's actually sticking. So they're able to grasp things. So I feel that that's honestly that's my favorite thing about homeschooling is I get to craft.
Right.
Just didn't know because you just
Yeah.
I mean honestly like it's I think when I first started and I read all the books I thought okay I'm just going to buy the curriculum and we're just going to do school. And it was not like that.
Yeah.
It was not like that at all.
Yeah. But I think it just you're so brave because it's a complete unknown world. And I think that's exactly, I mean, that's, I can speak for myself is that, putting my girl in the public school because it's known and it's clear and I know what she's going to get, what are the tests going to be like. So to me, that just certain. Not that it's great. Honestly, I mean, there are so many things I would like to change, but it's just certain. But I think it's that feeling of like, okay, this is unknown. It's exciting. It's unknown. I can customize it, but it's unknown. Again, I
Yes.
I don't have anything. I don't have a recipe, right? But you have guides and that's it. How do you how do you cope with that? Because I feel like that's the underlying challenge maybe for a lot of parents who wants to choose homeschool, but afraid to do so.
So this is this is not a very shiny answer, but it is honest. It's you have to get like you have to get over it. You have
Hmm.
to get over the fact that you're going to fail. And I think that that was the hardest part because this is my children's education. And
Yeah.
so I can't even begin to tell you how many mistakes that I made. And that was the hardest part for me because I just wanted to get it right. And every time I thought like, okay, we're going to try this, this is right. So there's a lot of you just have to try. You just have to it's like trying to find the most perfect thing that's for you. You know, like for some women, like the perfect wedding dress, you have to try on a whole bunch before you find the one. And that's how it is. So I think that because honestly, kindergarten was very easy because there's just so much play. And then you're making games with the numbers and first grade. So my kids are just 1 year. So my son's in fourth now. And so my daughter's in third. So when it was first grade and kindergarten, it was still pretty simple. Like it was just it didn't matter his learning style because what we were learning and what we were teaching was pretty easy and it was just easy to grasp. But once second grade came, math got a little bit more difficult. And then third grade for my son is the year that I think things just changed drastically education wise from second to third grade. And so third grade was a year that really broke the two of us because I didn't know how to teach him for math, for example. I couldn't figure out what he didn't understand. And I would get frustrated and I would get so frustrated with him. And months of that went by. And then all of a sudden I realized I'm not frustrated with him. I'm terrified. I am so scared that I am about to fail my son because now every day that we homeschool, what's facing him was the anxiety of math, but what was facing me was the fact that you can't do this. Like you can't like you're not doing good. You're not helping. Like, and that I think was the most humbling experience for me because once I realized that I'm terrified that I'm about to fail my son. And then that was when the weight and the gravity of the responsibility of their education became so very real to me. And then that was when I got terrified. I wasn't scared in first grade. I wasn't scared in second, but third grade, that's when it really hit me. So I would say that it's just when I got to that moment, I had a pep talk with myself like, yeah, like you failed. You failed. But do you want to keep failing? Because we love this life. Like we like as a family, we love homeschooling. So it's not so much that school isn't an option because it is. It's just this is what we want. So you go above and beyond and you make ways to make it work. And then that was when I just dove deep. Like, okay, so what do we do? How do we do this? Where do we go from here? And then that was when I realized he has a completely different learning style for math than I do.
Mm,
And
mm,
he is able to do so much in his head that when I'm sitting here and I'm trying to make it simple and going all these steps, like he's already skipped the 3 steps. And that was where I realized that was just the breakdown and that changed a lot. But if I had advice also as far as all of this, the easiest thing that I did, and it also takes the largest leap of faith, is I let my kids lead in their education. Like they picked cursive. They wanted to learn cursive handwriting. I was not going to make them learn cursive, but they want to learn cursive handwriting. Like here's my non-negotiables. Like you have to learn this. Like that's the end of the story.
mhm.
But what do you want to
Yeah.
learn?
Mhm,
What subject would you like to know more about? And so like this year my son picked chemistry.
mhm,
He wants to learn more about chemistry.
mhm,
And so for our science, we're doing chemistry and anatomy. And so I feel that when I follow them and what they want to learn, they're more open because they're excited about it. And so it's not so much that we're not going to ever go over anything else. Where it gets fun is when you can start weaving it all together. Chemistry and anatomy, bringing it together into other parts like biology, and then perhaps going into history, studying former chemists and the discovery, just like making it fun. And that the more fun I make it for them, the less it feels like we're doing school.
mhm,
And then
mhm.
it's just learning just becomes this way of life.
I love that. So one thing that comes to mind because you mentioned it's a way of life. So homeschooling is a way of life. So in life, you have, boy and a girl, And, I'm asking as I'm sure other moms are probably thinking about this, is that how do you structure the time
Oh,
and or even have me time? I mean, I don't want to sound
okay.
selfish, but I think that's
No,
important, right?
it is.
How do you have that when you kind of have life and school and everything roll into one?
So, time structure and schedules, because I'm more creative. So, and I'm more of a like, oh, this is what I feel like doing today. You really can't be like that with homeschool. So, that is something that I've had to learn myself. So, I would say a lot of things that I did wrong in the beginning was I was so rigid. I because it was kind of like I was all the way over here. And then I thought to make myself successful as a homeschool mom, I need to be all the way over here. So then I went from being loosey goosey to very like 45 minutes we're doing math, and then nope, it's 11:30. I said after 11:30 we're moving on to this, and then I would have timers out, and then it was like stressing out the kids because they're like, well, what if we don't finish? Well, I guess you got homework because we have got to get this finished. And so that was that was a semester that did not go very well, but I tried. And then I bought planners, and I would stay up late Sunday night and then like research all weekend and try to structure and then write down like a syllabus the way that a teacher would. And then it stressed my kids out because all they saw were a bunch of words and then like their whole entire day with words on it. And I was like, well, it says play right there. It's like, but in their mind, they had to finish 5 things before they were allowed to play. And so then that wasn't working. And then I tried independent, where I did this clipboard thing and I assigned points, like a point system to, like, if you get this, then you get this, then you get this, and then you can have these points. And then after you have so many points, and then all that did was stress the kids out. And again, back to the getting comfortable with failing, getting comfortable with constantly trying something new
Mm,
and just being okay with, okay, that didn't work. And I think that where that's really hard is you're kind of like, and I know you've talked about this a lot, but you're like
mhm.
stuck in that in between. And
Yeah.
you're like, I just want to be like, I just want to be where it just flows. And so I guess where we are now is
Mhm,
where I don't wish that we weren't there, but I would tell anybody
mhm,
that was thinking about this before they started, it's
mm,
the less rigid you are, the more there's a rhythm. And so rather than having a schedule, there's this rhythm and this flow. And that does take time. And so we started ours over the summer. So then, because I knew once fall hit, the ballet schedule, the jujitsu schedule, the homeschool group schedules, all of that was just going to be so much.
mhm,
And so, what it is now is it's just short, consistent bursts.
mhm,
So, what they're learning now is it's better to get this done now because it's a non-negotiable. It has to be done. If not, there's no screen time over the weekend. So it's this desire of theirs, but it's structured in a way that they only have to do 20 minutes of this, 30 minutes of this, 10 minutes of this, 15 minutes of this, and then we are allowed to have science take as long as science wants to
right,
take, or art take as long as art wants to take. So then to circle back to where you were saying for my me time, when they needed me to be more hands on with school, we weren't as busy with activities. So I got a lot of time in like late afternoon and evenings that were just kind of like to myself. So now with us being very busy, like for example, having only Thursdays off, with no activities scheduled. And Saturdays, because we have activities even on a Sunday, I have started to be honest and have open conversations with my kids about how important it is for mom to have time in the morning. So if they wake up early, like even like this morning, my son woke up and he's like, are you done with your morning time or do you want me to go back to my room?
Oh.
So and I've explained it to them like that this is what I need in order for me to give you what you need.
Mm.
And I want to give you what you need because it makes you happy. So if you can do this for me, and then in the afternoon, I will be completely honest with you, they really want nothing to do with me after having spent all day with me.
Yeah.
So then they go off and play, and then
Mm.
I have a little bit of time, but also too what I've started doing this year that I haven't done, I love doing art. I love doing art. So before I would set up the art project for the kids, either have them do like watch a video or here's the instructions. I printed it all off, like I'll come in and help, but I'm going to get these chores done. Now I actually I sit down and I do art with them. And so we'll listen to classical music and then it's just this moment to be present. And so even though like I'm still with them and we're doing something, my cup is getting
Mhm.
filled because I'm able to just be fully present. And
Mhm.
I've noticed the more that I'm able to just be present with them, I don't need as many breaks from them.
Uh,
And then our relationship gets much better. So then they actually become more supportive of me because now we're filling each other's cups. So I start noticing when we have more of those moments like, Mama, do you need anything? Can I help you with that? Like, what do you need? And then they start doing chores without me having to ask. And so that's what I've realized is this how powerful presence with your kids actually is when you're not trying to perform or do all these tasks or check off some box, but you're just being with them. And once I discovered that, I began craving it. Where before I used to crave alone time, and now I just want to be with them. For example, even just over the summer, it was just like, okay,
mhm.
go.
Mhm.
Sure,
Mhm.
go watch your own show. Mom and dad are going to watch ours. And now I'm just like, hey, like, let's watch something together. Like, it's just like, that's the gift that presence gave is I don't want the separation. So
Mm.
I still do sometimes because I am busy. I need
Mhm.
time, but then I'm honest with my husband. Could you take the kids Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care where you guys go, but like I could really I just want to be alone in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, and he does, but when I have more of those moments where I'm just spending quality time with them, I don't even ask for that. I know this sounds awful, but it's tolerable to
Mhm. Mhm.
be around them. I know that sounds horrible, but it's just
No.
I've noticed that. I don't really need a break from them. So and I
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
and it's not to make other moms feel bad or anything if they do because I have spent most of their lives needing breaks. So this is not how it's always been. It's just something that I notice because the older they are, the busier they've gotten. And then now I'm trying to do something for myself.
Right.
And so we're just busy. And
Mhm. Mhm.
the more pockets of presence we have,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
less I feel I need to be separate from them.
Yeah. No, I think it's so beautiful. I mean, this is what I loved about you is that you're so honest and you're so unafraid to talk about, even though I don't find that as failures, but they're just things that you've tried and it didn't work
There's
in the
lots of
specific
failures.
case.
There's
But
lots.
think of what you said about, you mentioned that rigidity, right? And I think it's so interesting that we tie that rigidity to success. And when we're doing it, we don't even know. And, what you said, it makes me think, of all the moments that I was so frustrated to be a stay-at-home mom back in the days, because I just constantly feel like when I'm with my child, I feel guilty because I'm not doing work or I'm not doing chores. But when I'm doing chores, I feel guilty that I'm not with them. And it's always guilt. But if I'm just be present and actually enjoy doing whatever that the kids is, really interested in doing, then you don't have that separation. But I think it's just so interesting that we often feel this, we have to do this one thing where we have to be productive in order to be successful. And I often feel like women, because we were in the workforce and then we become mothers, we kind of bring back that mentality in the workforce.
Hmm.
And we wanted to apply that in motherhood. And it really doesn't work that way. And you mentioned this before. I'm really curious about why it didn't work. You mentioned a point system. I tried it. It did not work for me. Why? But why? Why didn't it work? Tell me about your
It's
experience.
so it was, oh gosh, my daughter was killing it with the points.
Okay.
And my son couldn't handle the competition because he craves, so this was something that I had to learn. He craves freedom.
Mm, 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 mm,
Structure, but freedom.
mm.
My
Okay.
daughter does really well when you give her a clear path. So when you give her too much freedom, she's just kind of like, well, then I'm just going to do my own thing. And then my son, what I notice is the more it's his choice,
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
more he's willing to do it.
Mm, mm.
And so the point system felt like still somebody telling him what to do. I didn't realize this about him until I started seeing a lot of myself in him and hearing things that he was saying. And I just was like, yes, because that's also how I am. I was a buck authority, like, you're not going to tell me what to do. Like, I'm going to do this and prove to you that I can do this. And I don't care. It kills me. I'm going, and that's my kid. And that's my son. And so once I started realizing his values, the things that mean the most to him are trust, honesty, and freedom. Those 3 things right there, you play into all of those things, he's putty in your hands. You don't lie to him. You let him know how you can trust him more. Like, it's just because we're always having conversations
Yeah, right.
about what happens, like how to break trust, and then making it his choice. And it's not even that you have to manipulate it.
Yeah.
So the difficult thing is it's like when I want him to choose something, I have to present the case in a way that where he feels like, okay, yep, this is going to benefit me. Like, what am I getting out of this? Because if you're asking for my time and my energy, I got to know what's in it for me. And so math was something that he's just like, they make calculators. Like, I don't understand. And so that was hard, but that's pretty much why the point system didn't work, because it was really stressing him out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do a point system for her and then not for him. And then again, I didn't want the stress to be tied to these positive things that I wanted to foster. And I do agree that there's like a certain level of stress that's healthy and it's good, but also too, it's when the stress causes the shutdown, I don't want it attached to something that I'm trying to have, like a positive habit or
Right, right.
a behavior that's going to benefit him, as he gets older. And so that I'm very, very mindful of that.
Well, that answered my questions.
Yes.
Because I think what you said, it's about creating that structure, but not so rigid in a way that you killed all the freedom. It's the structure, but with freedom. They get to be creative, they get to have agency. I loved how, again, like I love how vulnerable and just honest you are with this whole entire process. But, I think with motherhood, it's like opening ourselves up again. And how has homeschooling helped you or impact you in terms of healing, in terms of becoming whole?
So, a couple of ways.
Mm,
Back again to the presence. It's this palpable, visceral feeling that I get to just sit in when I'm there, and it's like time stops. I don't know how else to describe it, and so it's like, okay, like this was great. Like, can I have more? Like, what can we do
mm,
tomorrow to recreate this? And that I think is very healing because I get to enjoy my motherhood when it's like that. But also too, I get to be a kid again with homeschooling because we're doing kid art projects together. And then right now we made a plaster mold for volcanoes that are going to erupt over the weekend. And so it's just this ability to not only witness their wonder, but be able to revisit my own childhood wonder. Like, I wonder what's going to happen. What is this going to look like? I don't know. And so it's just this excitement. And then I get to go on these field trips and I get to immerse myself and then sit in with some of the classes that my kids take and to talk about being whole.
mm,
And I'm mostly self-educated, and so is my husband. So that's something that we both pride ourselves on, is self-educating. But when I think about learning and everything that there is that to know, I feel like the tragedy of my life is I am going to die, and I am never ever going to learn everything that I want to learn.
mhm.
And there is so many people that I wanna learn about. There's so many things. I mean, if you just think about it, like, I just learned somebody the other day who's, like, super famous, and I've never even known I didn't even know he existed. And my husband knew exactly who he was, and I'm just like, "Where have I been?" And it's not even just this, like, living under a rock. It's just there's billions of people on this planet, and there's cultures, and there's just so much. And so I think that when you're truly educated, not just educated to get a piece of paper, not educated to pass a test, but like when you're truly immersed in learning and you're feeding your mind, it connects you more to your spirit. And then your spirit belongs to humanity because it's all interwoven. And I think that's why it's very important to me to make learning be something that my kids see as fun, because to me it is. I
Mm,
absolutely love to learn new things. And so I feel that when you're able to tie in the mind, the body, and the spirit, and you're able to immerse yourself in all of that and be able to start having that curiosity as an adult, because I feel like we don't have that as adults. And I honestly, there's so many things that I get to experience that I would not be able to experience if number one, I was not a mother, and number two, if I did not homeschool.
mm,
And those are the curiosity and the wonder. Like, we get to go for walks, and it's just like, just ask your kids questions, or like they'll ask me, and instead of me giving them an answer, well, what do you think? Why do you think it's like that? And then just to hear them. And then sometimes I'm just like, I'm taken back, like, whoa, like
right.
that was a perspective I never
Mm,
would have. Or looking like, here, the wildlife in the Houston area in Texas is just it's unlike anything I've ever seen. So it's just you get to go and see these things and
right.
be able to experience that. So I would say that that's how it's made me more whole, because I'm receiving the second education.
Mhm,
And then I also get to be in charge of it. So like, I get the say, not my high school teachers, not the college courses that I took. I get to say, I want to learn more about this. And then I get to teach my kids when you're really interested in something, this is what you do. You go to the library, you get more books, like you start looking for YouTube videos, start asking people questions like, oh, I know someone that knows a little bit about that. We should go and ask them. Knowing more than what you need to know to get through your day. I think it really does something.
Hmm.
But also, too, I feel the more you know, the more you're able to understand. And then when we have more of an understanding, now I see why people do this, like when you're able to really understand how the world works, I guess.
Hmm. I love that. And I mean, now I'm like, I'm jealous. I would like to have that as well because, I think it's that power of taking back that right to actually say, I want to know this. I want to learn about this, not being shoved and pushed on us, right? And I mean, now I look at my daughter's curriculum, I'm like, did I learn this before? I don't remember that because I probably was forced to memorize the information, but it wasn't something I wanted, like I knew that I wanted to learn. And I want to ask you this, but I mean, that's not something we discussed in our chat earlier, but I think it's really important is that how has homeschooling changed your husband as well?
Oh,
Because I feel like he's an integral part of this,
yes.
your system as well, right? Yeah.
So I wanted to tie real quick about the memory. So what I had learned is memory increases with emotion. So they're tied together. For instance, like when we're teaching history, instead of just spouting out all these facts to my kids, like, and then and it happened in 1492, it's what how would you feel if this were you? Like, so it's like this attaching this emotion when we learned about Mesopotamia, like my kids, I was so excited to teach this that it bombed. The kids were so nowhere near as excited about Mesopotamia as mama was, but I'm like, imagine like this is your life. Or like they actually know about the Industrial Revolution, the American Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution,
Right, right.
because they played this game where they had to be kids that
Mm.
lived in that time. And so they had their wages taken away. They had, like their life taken away. So I just wanted to tie that into it. So like this whole like because that's how I was forced to learn like rote
Yeah,
memorization.
yeah.
And
Same.
I'm reading these books and I'm just like I had no idea. Like I can't believe this. Did he really do this? And I'm like my mind is just constantly blown when you attach emotion to it, it sticks in the memory a lot more. And then also to smells. So if you like light a candle or something, if you're able to activate the sense of smell, the memory starts to get better. So those are just a couple tips. But my husband, I wouldn't really say that he changed so much. It's more I changed.
Hmm.
This is so embarrassing, but I just he's pretty much been the same. Like, honestly, like, through this whole thing, it's me. So, a lot of it was in the beginning, he would make a comment, and then I would just be like, "Oh, okay." And then I would bend over and, contort and then die and just all of this. And he was like, "Why are you?" I'm like, "Well, you said." He's like, "I didn't say that you need to do this." And I'm like, "But you said." He's like, "Well, yeah, I was just making an observation. I asked a question. You took it upon yourself." And so, so that was that took a minute because I took almost everything that he said personally or as some type of critique.
Hmm.
And it's probably because I had already felt so much like a failure and I was already so afraid of failing.
Yeah, yeah.
So he would just say something and I was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm failing." Like, so, so that was good. But then I would say I learned from her name's Sarah Mackenzie. Her claim to fame is the Read Aloud Revival. And I subscribed to her because she had this like the subscription service for homeschool. It had this forum. You were able to take these independent classes, like where she has really, really deep. questions that were hard to answer. And so I utilized that service for, I think, 3 years during homeschooling. And one of them that she had said was, it was like the challenge was ask yourself what your priorities are for homeschooling. What are your goals for homeschooling? And ask each one of your kids what their goal is, like what their priorities are, and ask your husband. And that was pretty much the first time I had ever really considered asking him his opinion. And so I and his answers gave me a perspective into him that I didn't really know, because we'd never, just certain things. I mean, I've known him since I was 19. I've known him for 26 years. And out of all these 26 years, when I asked him those questions, these were things that I didn't know. And one of them was that he wanted our kids to be able to learn at their own pace. He didn't want them to feel rushed or anything. And he shared his experience, like with homework and how he got bad grades. But I mean, like, I'm not kidding. He taught himself physics when he was in 8th grade.
My
So that
goodness.
that's that's how intelligent my husband is. Like, he
Mhm,
taught
mhm,
himself software engineering. He taught himself programming. He's like, when I say we're self-taught, like, that's what we are. And so, but school didn't work for him because, again, it wasn't at his pace, and he's in tech.
mhm,
And so when he started saying, like, I want them to be able to type, like, I want, like,
mhm.
our kids really have to be able to type. I want them to be comfortable with the computer. These were things that I was just like, never would have put that in the curriculum. So I guess, actually, no, that's not fair to say that he hasn't changed. I would say that he's been more open. He's been more open. So when I come with all these new plans, because after my last plan failed, and I found the one that's going to work, he's been very open to it, and just is like, okay, go, like, yep, go ahead. And I think the most recent one where I said to him, I'm not going to be as rigid,
Mhm,
that I really want to lean more this way. That, I think, that was difficult for him because he wanted to be able to have the kids, like, be able to recite, like, what they learned, like, what did you learn today? What about this? What about this? I'm like, you can't ask like that. Like, it's a discussion. They don't think that they learned something. Like, we talked about
right.
this. And so I think that what I had said to him, this was when he just kind of said, okay, and just kind of like let go a little bit,
Mm,
was, I said, I'm about to ask you something that might scare you because it's terrifying the living daylights out of me. And I said, but
mhm,
I feel like we just have got to take this leap of faith,
mhm, mhm,
plant these seeds, and then just hope that they grow. But the more we keep trying to dig up to see if they've ever sprouted, they're just not going to be able to grow. So can you just not necessarily blindly jump with me, but could you just take this leap of faith? And I
mhm,
think that that's the biggest thing about homeschooling is it demands you to trust things that you didn't even know that you needed to trust, and to have an unshakable faith that you didn't even think that you were capable of having, because I certainly didn't. And I think that once we both kind of just like took that seat back and took that step back and started placing it again, like, in the children's hands, but with us, like, with us guiding, okay, this is what's best for you, then this is what we're going to do, like, rather than this is just how we know that this is going to how it needs to be done. I think that that's when the kids started to kind of come more into their own
yeah,
and started to become, I guess, a little bit more confident, but also interested in things, not just, when do I get to play on the tablet? When do I get to do this? It was just like, well, what are you doing? Why is he doing that? Once that started to happen, it was easy for both of us to just step back. But no, he's more of the, He's more of the steady force in this house, and I'm more of the, I just read a new book and this is going to be it. Or I found the new curriculum and they promised that he's going to jump a grade level. Just watch. So, so that was, so
Yeah.
that's pretty much how it's been.
Right. But I think you need both, right? I think it's just
Yeah.
so beautiful, that partnership, because it's imagine, he's the square, but you're the little bubble in the in the
Yes.
center of the
Yes.
square. But it's so beautiful. And I loved how you phrased it, homeschooling, where actually I think parenting or life is really about planting seeds and not constantly checking to see if it's working. And I think I do that a lot as well with grades, again, like grades, metrics. That seems to be the indication of whether or not they're succeeding, whether or not I'm doing a good job. But it's putting so much pressure on both of us. But I think that's just so beautiful. I love the balance that you have with your husband. It's just so funny. But it's so raw and so real. But I can feel that he's the one that kind of
Oh, yeah.
ground, right?
Yes.
Everything.
He's the anchor. He's the anchor for the wayward ship, the storm that
Yeah.
I bring.
But you need both,
Yes.
right? You
Yeah.
need both. And I mean, I love our conversation so much. I mean, there's so much to unpack, and there's definitely going to be a part two. But speaking of balance, I wanted to ask you this question that I always ask is your definition of soft power.
I would say it is having your life be your message. So, not always speaking, but actually just like walking the talk and having your life, the way that you live, be the message, not always dictating or educating, but just living in a way that you feel would inspire other people.
That's just so beautiful. I wanted to know, what's your advice for mom who had some difficulty in putting their school or homeschooling their kids, even though they wanted to. But because I feel like homeschool is just such a beautiful system where it involves everyone, and everyone has a say how they want it to learn, when, and the goals. They get to set their own goals. That's just so beautiful. But I know that there are a lot of different countries, different system, so not everyone gets to have that opportunity to do so, but what's your advice for them in if they wanted to kind of create that learning environment as well at home?
So I have three: read, play, create. So if you can foster a love of reading, you have guaranteed a lifelong learner, because the second you enjoy reading, I mean, it's limitless.
Yeah.
Play, they have a quote. So I think it takes, for a child, it takes 400 to 500 times of repetition, like to create a synapse in that brain. Through play, it takes 5.
Ah,
So when, like, 2 or 5, something like that. So play really opens up the brain and really opens up the mind, and so I would definitely say play, but also too, it's how children process the world is through play. So I would say unstructured play as much as possible. And then when you're creating, when they're able to create, they're able to express themselves. And I think that that is very, very important for children to be able to express that. I mean, even like for like my homeschool children, because again, I mean, they don't have much freedom, and so I would say creating really allows them to problem solve, to express themselves. And I think the one thing, like and I don't know how it is everywhere else, but here, like in the United States, like we're struggling having like innovators, people that have these original ideas and problem solvers, and we outsource a lot to other countries for their intelligence. And so I think that when you look at play, creativity, those two intertwined together really strengthen problem solving, critical thinking, being able to think outside the box. So I would
Mhm.
say that if schools got math, English, and all of that, really foster reading and make them love reading, let them read whatever the heck that they want to read because school's already got them, picking the books, but just let them read whatever they want, play as much as possible, fewer screens, like as much, much, much fewer, but just let them play. Play with toys, play unstructured, have imagination, and create, create,
Mm.
create, create. And I feel that, and then also to remembering that, yes, they have teachers at school, but you were their very first teacher. You taught them how to walk. You taught them how to talk. You're going to teach them how to become an adult. You're teaching them manners. I mean, just always remember that you still have a say
Mhm.
in their life education
Mm.
and trust yourself on that one.
That's right. We are the first educator of our kids. And as much as, it feels like we're outsourcing that to teachers at school, but I think the most important part of education happens at home
Yeah.
as well. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for this incredible information because I felt like it just seeing you and you share your journey, how to be a mom that you want it to be. And again, like sharing all the things that didn't work and how that makes you feel and how do you kind of heal from that. I think it's just so powerful. And I really encourage everyone to follow you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Samantha. I hope we have another episode coming soon.
Thank you, Sherry.